Are you looking to add more whole grains to your diet? If you are, I recommend that you try quinoa. This ancient grain has been around for thousands of years. Native to South America, the Incans regarded quinoa as sacred for its medicinal purposes. And although it's commonly referred to as an ancient whole grain, the part of quinoa that we typically eat is the seed. So there's no gluten. And there's over 250 varieties of quinoa. It's now grown in a lot of different locations around the world. It comes in different colors, anywhere from white and yellow to red, purple, and black. So if you've tried it and you didn't really care for it, maybe try a different kind grown in a different area, or I've got some preparation tips coming up for you in just a little bit. But first, let's talk about the macronutrients in quinoa. And remember, your macronutrients are your proteins, your carbs, and your fats. So first, from a protein perspective, you may recall proteins are chains of amino acids, different configurations, and there's 22 different amino acids that can be chained together to make up a protein. Of those amino acids, 9 of them are considered essential amino acids because our body can't manufacture them from other things that we eat. We have to get them from our diet. And when it comes to quinoa, it has 17 of the 22 amino acids, and it has all 9 of the essential amino acids. Quinoa is particularly high in carbohydrates, and we've talked in other videos, carbs kind of get a bad rap, but we need carbs because carbs turn into glucose, and glucose is the fuel that powers our bodies. But there are different kinds of carbs, and not all carbs are created equal. So we've talked before that when you look at carbs, carbs are composed of fiber, starch, simple sugars, and complex sugars. Simple sugars are the ones we want to avoid. And those are the ones that kind of gave carbs a bad rap. But there's less than 3% of simple sugars in quinoa. Most of the carbs in quinoa are from starch. Starch is something that's made by plants, and it's how the plant stores energy that it's made, excess energy. We store excess energy in our fat. Plants store their excess energy in starch. But not all starches are created equal. So if you look at foods that are made with refined white flour, like bread or pasta, we say, oh, those are high in starch. And yes, they're a kind of starch that will convert very quickly to glucose and can spike your blood sugar. But the starch that's in quinoa is called resistant starch, and it breaks down over a longer period of time. So it's not going to cause a spike in your blood sugar. Resistant starch also helps to feed the good bacteria in our gut microbiome. And according to Johns Hopkins, resistant starch is good for weight loss and also for blood sugar control. All right, and finally, the fat in quinoa. The fat in quinoa is 90% unsaturated fat. And it's also high in something called linoleic acid, which is really good in supporting our cardiovascular health. Now, from a micronutrient perspective, quinoa is loaded with some B vitamins, specifically B2, B6, and B9. And then minerals that are prevalent in quinoa include magnesium, which helps control blood sugar, copper, calcium, phosphorus, potassium, which supports healthy heart function, and iron. So the health benefits of quinoa, in addition to we've already mentioned helping control your blood sugar, being heart healthy, promoting weight loss, it has antioxidants, and it's anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer properties. And it also helps with your cholesterol by constricting the production of low-density lipoproteins, aka the bad cholesterol. All right, so how do you fix it? Well, the primary way you make it would be similar to how you make rice. You use a 2-to-1 ratio, water to quinoa, bring the water to a boil, add the quinoa, reduce the heat to simmer, and let it cook until all the water is absorbed. Usually about 12-15 minutes, and then fluff it with a fork. And that's what you would do if you wanted to use it in a recipe like my kale and quinoa salad, which I'll leave a link to. But it doesn't end there. You can take quinoa that's been boiled, spread it out on a sheet pan, and let it cool a little bit so that the moisture evaporates. Then add 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil, half a teaspoon of salt, toss it well, and roast it in a 400-degree oven for about 20-25 minutes. Take it out, stir it occasionally, and it gets really crunchy. It reminds me of grape nut cereal. And you can use that on top of a salad, or if you're making something like a bowl where you're combining some greens and roasted vegetables, and then you can put toasted quinoa on top to give it a different texture and a nice toasty crunch. And then finally, another interesting way to use quinoa, you don't cook it ahead of time. You toss it with granola type ingredients like some uncooked rolled oats and some nuts and seeds, add some fat, some spices like cinnamon, maybe a little vanilla, spread that out on a sheet pan and toast it in the oven and make granola with it. Quinoa seeds are coated with something called saponin. It's a natural insect repellent that the plant makes to protect its seeds. And that substance can cause some intestinal distress for some people, a little bit of bloating, or some people just don't like the way it tastes. But you can get rid of that by rinsing your quinoa before you cook it, or even letting it soak in water for like 30 minutes and then rinsing it off. Which, by the way, I found if you soak and rinse your rice, it comes out a lot nicer too. I learned that from my friend Sheila. And some people are allergic to the saponin. So if you are allergic to soybeans, chickpeas, or legumes, you may want to avoid quinoa. And you know you're allergic if after you eat it, you get itchy, or you break out in hives, or you have difficulty breathing. So if you're allergic to those other foods, stay away from quinoa. Otherwise, I really encourage you to try it because it's a great addition to your diet, and it's a nice swap out for things that are high in starch and simple sugars. Okay, so that's enough for today. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, just leave them down below. And also, if you already know about quinoa, what's your favorite recipe? Leave that down in the comments below too. If this type of content appeals to you, never miss a post by joining my intention circle. It's free. You can go to intendwell.us and sign up. And once a week on Friday morning, I'll send you a short newsletter with a link to my content for the week and sometimes a bonus extra for people who are members of the circle. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Have a beautiful day. And remember to intend well.